If you're anything like me, when you think about the guys who signed the Declaration of Independence, many of them who were killed for it, you probably think of them as heroes from another time. Guys like Sam Adams, Paul Revere, who rode the streets on horseback, he was just a silversmith. Shout out to my brother Jim, who got me interested in silver many years ago. I look at these guys as heroes. They were so brave and they stood up for their country against unfair taxes, an encroachment of freedom from a bloated British presence that was no longer welcome in the United States. Fast track to 2020 and the criminal actions that took place, the encroachment of our freedoms against our will. I was alone in Colorado, and it was in the midst of drawing my presidents that I had an incident with the police. I had pulled down my mask that I dutifully wore as I worked out, and due to a lung condition, I needed to catch my breath. I pulled it down for just a second so I could catch my breath, and immediately one of those little punks was on me in front of my treadmill and said, "You need to put your mask back up." And I said, "Please have common sense," which is kind of funny because Thomas Paine wrote Common Sense way back during the Revolutionary period. But I was respectful. I was just pleading for this young kid to have common sense. Here is someone trying to work out who can't breathe. And instead of going into my history of lung issues at times, I just wanted him to have common sense. Within about 10 minutes, my car was surrounded by 5 police cars in the parking lot. And when the cop came up and started talking to me, I said, "What on earth is going on?" And he said, "The whole world's gone insane." So here it is, 6 years later. And with the release of certain files, we all may feel like we are being governed by a bloated and unruly class. The only thing that I can do as an artist is to truly depict history as it's happening in real time. Because there was one guy that I remember back in 2020 who stood up against these authorities who kept trying to shut down his gym. I think he probably would have let me get on the treadmill without that damn mask. But his name is Ian, and I wanted to depict him because I remember seeing him on the news when everyone else was silent. Everyone else was going along with the insanity. And I wanted to draw him because he was a modern day rebel. And I used the black flag behind him as the background of this large pastel drawing because the black flag represents no quarter. If we knew then what we knew now, I don't know how 2020 would have played out. But with the release of what has actually been going on behind the scenes by the deletes, I think it's time we overthrow that class. I don't know how to do it, but the one thing I can do as an artist is depict history in real time. And while they call someone like this a criminal or a domestic terrorist, the dude was trying to keep his business open. There was a lot of other businesses open, if you remember. I don't remember any churches being open, but I remember a lot of liquor stores and big box stores and Walmarts. So it just didn't make sense to a lot of us. So instead of referring to this guy as, something negative, he was a modern day hero. He was in the likes of Sam Adams and Paul Revere in my mind. And back to the black flag. The black flag represents no quarter. That means when you're fighting an enemy so evil, you're not going to put them in jail and question them. It's kill or be killed. The pirates would wave a black flag on their ship, meaning they were going to take what they wanted. And there's a little bit of misinformation about the Civil War, that the Confederates would wave all black American flag, and that's been debunked. There's no way the Confederates would have waved any type of American flag. They had their Confederate flag. And that's another reason I make these videos, is to preserve true history. So when I did this drawing of Ian, it was out of respect. And now I'm making this video to kind of show you the time lapse of what I did and why I did it. Because I think every God-fearing, good American man, woman, and child needs to find their voice and to stand up for what's true and what's right. We've been exposed to a lot of evil. And I don't know about you, but when I go face to face before my Maker one of these days, I want to let him know that I tried everything in my power, through art, through videos, through talking to people, to wake them up to their God-given right to speak, free speech, and to stand up against tyranny and lawlessness. What they did in 2020 was against the law. And now we have a choice. It seems to be the wars are only going to escalate. This is a choice that we can make, whether you're on the left or the right, no matter what your beliefs, to learn the Constitution, learn your rights, and to stand up for what is good against evil. I don't know about you, but if I saw any of those people who were on those dreaded emails, which spoke of unspeakable crimes against children, there would be no quarter in my mind. I wouldn't call the FBI and ask them to be arrested. It would be like putting down a rabid dog. Get them out of society. Protect the good men and women of this country. That's why I make art, because I'm trying to tell a story of good versus evil, freedom against oppression, tyranny against one of the most beautiful documents ever written by man. Know your Constitution. It is your right. God bless America. See you next week.